but let's step back because I want the American people to kind of take this in for a second. Just imagine that here the Israelis woke up and communities were bombarded. Families were murdered. Women and children were taken hostage, dragged through the streets. The elderly were taken. All of this has happened in front of everyone, on top of thousands of rockets that hit Israel. This should be personal for every woman and man in America. Why? Because when they did this surprise attack, when they took these hostages, when they murdered these families, they were celebrating. And what were they celebrating? They were saying death to Israel, death to America. This is not just an attack on Israel. This is an attack on America because they hate us just as much. And what we have to understand is this is the reason that we have to unite around making sure our enemies do not hurt our friends. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends, just like we needed them on 9/11. That's why Ukraine needs us when Russia's doing this. That's why Israel needs us when Hamas and Iran are doing this. And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind it. Finish them. They should have hell to pay for what they've just done.
And I stood proudly with our friend and ally, the state of Israel, and I will do it again. You heard about today, the Hamas terrorist invasion. I mean, when you think about, and what do you think of Hamas? What do you think? Do you know about Hamas? The terror invasion of Israeli territory and the murder of Israeli soldiers and citizens is an act of savagery that must be and will be crushed and avenged, has to be crushed. Israel's at war and the United States has to support Israel. We have to support Israel.
Welcome back to Totally Based. I'm Joey Gaskin, and today we need to talk about what's going on in Israel. But before we do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you never miss out on new content from me. Now let's get to it. All right, so I just want to get on here and kind of give you guys my 2 cents, my thoughts on what's going on right now. I feel like everywhere that you go, whether it be an airport, a gym, there's news going on right now. It's the same thing. It's Israel, the attacks that have happened to them, and it's really awful what's going on with these people right now. But I feel like it's very easy for us to be emotional about what we're seeing. That's what the media does. They post things so we get emotional and so we respond in a certain way and things play out the way an agenda is supposed to be played out. So I just want us to be thinking logically, because right now there are a lot of politicians coming out of the woodwork saying things like we support Israel. And so I'm just like, okay, we support Israel. What does that mean? You know, they use that word support so loosely. Nikki Haley recently came out and said that an attack on Israel is an attack on America. And I'm like, no, not necessarily. I don't think so. I know we're allies, but I not in the way that she's saying it. She also said to finish them, to Netanyahu. So I feel like, you know, those are fighting words. Those are war words. She's encouraging war, and she's encouraging that we support that war. This war could very well lead to World War III. And so I'm hearing people say support. You know, Donald Trump himself, he also said that we should support Israel. So again, use this word support so loosely. What does that mean? Does that mean that we need to send them foreign aid? Does that mean that we need to, you know, stand in solidarity with Israel? Do we need to post a square or a flag on our social media account? Like, can we get some context to this word support? You know, that's all I'm asking. Because I feel like right now there's a lot of things that are going on in America that are being neglected. Let's talk about our southern border right now. You know, you look at all of these migrants that are being pushed to all these different states, these sanctuary cities that are housing them. They're housing them in hotels and spending billions of dollars to support them, giving them free health care and things that us as Americans, we aren't even getting. You know, and also it's sucking our resources dry. We also have, you know, the people of Maui. They just got $700 after the worst fire in history. $700. Like, what do you do with that? I feel like Americans are just being neglected. And for us to take our money, our tax dollars, and be sending it to another country like we have been with Ukraine, I mean, goodness gracious, I'm surprised there's anything left. You know, I'm not okay with that. I don't know if you guys know, but America's one of the most generous countries when it comes to giving foreign aid. I think I read somewhere that by 2022, we had given $156 billion in foreign aid to countries. $156 billion. That's a whole Jeff Bezos. So when it comes to jumping aboard the war train, forgive me if I'm not, you know, first in line to do that. I'm definitely wanting to see what's going on. I feel like war only makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. So I encourage you, as all this footage is coming out, as you're seeing things on Twitter and there's all these horrific accounts of what's taking place over there. I encourage you to just think with your brain that there might be a lot more at play than what we're seeing. There might be more going on than we know. And so if we can actually just take that into account, we actually step back and say, hey, who is the one that's feeding us this? It's the same players as always. It's MSM. It's the news media. They do the same thing all the time. And so they want to get an emotion out of you so that way it's easy for them to make things take place. But I will say I'm glad that some people can think clearly. Check out this clip from Tucker Carlson and Vivek Ramaswamy.
And I think one of the learnings for the U.S., I think there's a lot of learnings for the U.S., Tucker, but one of the learnings is if that establishment can get it wrong in Israel from a U.S. perspective, that could happen right here at home. And if anything, as an ally, one of the things that we need to wake up to is that we're vulnerable here in the United States to the same. And so we can do some things to prevent that, secure our border, stop funding. I mean, I think one of the things that's been wrong in the U.S. is we have a bad habit while we're bankrupt, funding both sides of wars that should have been avoided in the first place. Look at the money that's indirectly found its way to Hamas, the $6 billion paid to Iran in the recent ransom. That was a disaster. Yet we're effectively now funding both sides of a war that we shouldn't have been in the first place in places like Russia and Ukraine even. Think about how we hampered oil production in the United States and then now has funding, U.S. funding going to Ukraine in fighting back against Russia. It's a bad habit in the United States, and we need leaders here who will look after what advances American interests. And I find what Dan Crenshaw said to be cringeworthy. It is shameful. World War I was supposed to be the war that ended all wars, that got us to World War II. That can't be the way that we run foreign policy. The job of American leaders is to advance American interests. And I think we support Israeli leaders asking what advances and defends Israel as we should, morally and diplomatically. But leaders here need to look after American interests first.
The conversation can't be limited to right and wrong. I mean, I don't think there's anyone defending the murder of concert goers in the Negev 2 days ago is, disqualified from, being taken seriously. Yeah. Of course, that's wrong. But it doesn't seem like any American policymaker is even willing to entertain other questions like what's in America's best interest, what effect will this have on the global economy, on our economy, on energy prices. These are not small things. They should not be dismissed, but they are dismissed out of hand, and you're some sort of quizzling if you even raise the question.
So there you have it, guys. That's kind of my thoughts on things. If you disagree, I welcome that. Post down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. If you like this video and you like the content that I'm bringing to you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.